and then you realize what it was.
So these animals that we'll see in the cages have being rehabilitated, but they have something wrong with them that they're not going to be reintroduced to the wild, and so they keep them here forever. I don't know what the little white ring around the back of the head is. Bald eagles that are the first couple years of their, as they're growing into an adult, they look exactly like golden eagles, and then the white head comes in later. So they're often confused or misidentified. But a beautiful bird. These ones will fly, one of the highest flying birds there is. And they have incredible eyesight. They can be 1,000 feet up, and they pinpoint exactly what they're going to eat, and they dive down and get it. So, they pick things out, and they home in on it with their ears, and then they use their good night vision to find it. And they just sit up on top of trees at night, something crawls down there, and that's what they do. Gorgeous. Okay. And bones, mostly. And so it mats up all the bones in this hairy type thing, and it spits it up like a hairball, like a cat in a hairball. And if you dissect that, you can see what he was eating, because it has the skeleton of whatever they're eating. And they're very similar to what is called I don't know if you've ever heard of a burrowing owl. They go under the ground. They're really small, and they're very similar to that. These are found a lot around here in the open grasslands, like Castro Valley and Livermore, that type. If you ever are looking up in the sky and you see a bird with its wings kind of bent in and just dive bombing, that's a peregrine. They is a very famous pair of peregrine falcons in Alameda. Does anybody know about them? No. I was just out there a couple months back watching them. They live on the Park Street Bridge. And the very high on the Park Street Bridge, you'll see them, especially in the springtime when they have their young, teaching their young how to fly and hunt. And it's really, really neat. If you go back on the water there, that's where you look right up and you can see them a lot. Really neat. But I had never seen a prairie falcon. And I'd always wanted to see one. I had never seen it. And that's that one up there. Essentially the same kind of bird, but one inhabits the open prairies. Peregrines inhabit like the forest type hilly areas. And they look very similar. They're just lighter in color. But a fascinating, fascinating bird. And they're the big, just kind of all black birds that just glide all the time. That's them there. They are related to the condor. The condor is the biggest one of them all, biggest vulture of them all. Wow, look at that. And that's a red-shouldered hawk. You don't see those very often. That's a very rare hawk. And I've definitely never heard one before. That was pretty cool. I'm a bird guy. That sound is ingrained in my head now. If I ever hear that sound again, I'm going to be like, that's a red-shouldered hawk, without even seeing it. But a beautiful, beautiful animal. It's interesting that they house them together. That one of the most beautiful hawks you'll ever see. And, I don't want to be mean or anything. Right, they're not quite. So as a birder, that's one of the species that I'm dying to see in the wild is a condor. I've never seen a condor yet. I've camped in Big Sur. I've camped in Airy Grand Canyon. I've looked all over for them. I've never seen them. Turkeys. Oh yeah, you guys see the turkeys up the hill? Those are wild turkeys. Probably a little bit gamey. I don't know. Isn't that neat? I was just reading about them the other day. They're starting to do really, really well, and they're coming back, and the numbers are going up all over the place. For whatever reason, I don't see them in Oakland very much. In the Oakland Hills up there, I hike a lot back there, and I've never, ever seen them, but Hayward, Castro Valley, they're all over the place.
Can they fly, or are they just more?
They can fly short distances.
Okay.
And so what they'll do is, like, if you ran up towards them, they'll just fly 100 feet or 50 feet or whatever. So anyway,
Run after you. Like when they're mad, they'll run after
they will, you know where I saw them the other day? I saw them on Bay Farm Island, on the park, and they're just right there.
Oh yeah.
That was the weirdest
really
place to see a turkey.
When we lived on Bay Farm, they would be like behind our house.
Yeah, interesting.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. So here's the red-tailed hawk. This is the one that you see all the time around here. They are very variable. These particular ones here have the kind of the red chest, but it can be anywhere from white to red and to gray to anywhere in between. When they are flying, or if they were flipped around, you can see the backside of their tail. It's, you know, nice and red, rusty red, and that's what gives them their name. But these are the most numerous hawk in California. You see them all over the place. So, but you never get to see them that close. And if you remind me on Thursday to bring out the native birds that they have stuffed, these birds died somehow naturally, and they were able to get them stuffed, and they have a red-tailed hawk. It's really neat to hold it and see it up close. But,
Something is happening with its chest.
that
What
one,
is that?
it looks like part of his wing maybe is damaged. Maybe that's what led them to being here. But they are actually not very good to be here. They're an invasive species, and they're taking resources away from the native birds. They're the European kind of blackbird, I guess you would call it. And they make that high screeching sound. If you heard that, you'll hear it all over the place. And now you can go, oh, that's a starling. Hey, Stellar Jay.
Hi.
Oh,
Sorry,
hi.
just walking by.
No,
Good
thank
morning,
you so
everybody.
much.
It's a Regal Red Heritage turkey, so it is the type that they're actually saving their. Back in the day, years ago, they used to have all these species, kind of like dogs almost, for turkeys and game animals, or well, not game, I'm sorry, poultry. You know what I mean. So this is one species, a Regal Red, or heritage type, heirloom type that we tried to get. And we actually purchased him for here. He's getting a little older now, but he's still doing great. Let me know if you have any questions. I just got back from the meeting.
Oh, thank you. Can we go inside at all?
Yes, let me make sure it is all.
We're gonna go see the coyotes and the foxes.
For sure, yeah.
thank
If you have any questions, my name is Deb.
Hi, Deb. Thank
Hi,
you.
good morning, welcome.
Appreciate it.
Oh, wow.
And so you see them a lot in the Castro Valley, Livermore area. Actually, I can hear them in Oakland sometimes. They're coyote calls at night. They look like such a nice, friendly animal. They are a scavenger / predator. I have a couple stories. One time I was reading a story, I can't remember where it was, is Bakerfield or Fresno or somewhere. Some grandma was walking her 3-year-old down the street to the mailbox. And out of the blue, this thing just snatched the kid and just started running off with the baby. And some neighbor saw it and chased it down, and then the coyote dropped the baby, and everything was okay. They can be very come across as tame in many places. In Yosemite, they will walk right up to you. And I'll never forget my mom. Like, oh, the coyote, where's the food? She gets all this food, and she's like, I'm like, Mom, you can't be feeding the coyotes, you know? And so you have to, when wild animals come up, don't feed them. That really hurts them in the long run. If they get used to humans, that's a really bad thing. And so I know it's tempting. I would say if you're an adult, you'll probably be okay. They're going to be more scared of you than you are of them. But if you have kids around or a small pet, you definitely want to protect that pet. They're thinking about one thing only. They're thinking about food. They see us, they go, well, that's too big for food. But if they see a baby, that's the perfect size food for them. So,
but should you walk away or like?
yeah,
keep
I would
still?
say you should always walk away. You never know if they're rabid or anything. The fleas can carry a lot of diseases. So wild animals, you're better just to keep your distance. But they're a big problem in Yosemite. Like when you get out of your car in Yosemite, they're like, oh, there's somebody else with more food, right? And they just walk right up to you.
They're so cute.
Yeah, really interesting. He doesn't seem to be too shy either. And that's about as big as they get. They're like smaller, medium-sized dogs. They have been breeding with wolves. My oldest son was actually telling me about this. There's a name for it, but there's a hybrid coyote wolf mix now.
Can they reproduce?
No. And the wolves have come back to California. Did you know that? They actually had one that came in the top of California from Oregon, and then it went out. But now it came back in and is starting a family. It's up in northeast California. And so that's kind of one of the rare success stories. We've had hunted them out. Them and the grizzly bear. There's no grizzlies in California either.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
The
the
only
difference?
brown bears in California.
What's the
Or
difference
black bears.
between coyotes and wolves?
Well, wolf is bigger,
Uh-huh.
and they have a lot of similarities. They both can hunt in packs, but wolves have a very organized structure within their pack. There's a clear leader and a clear order of who's dominant. I was watching this really cool video in Yellowstone. I think I was telling people have to go to Yellowstone. It was in the wintertime, and there was this giant snowfield, and there were these big moose. I don't know if you've ever seen moose, but they're huge. And these wolves are like a line of wolves sneaking through the snow, and they're like, they're sitting here and they're sneaking up on them, and the things are looking up, and they're like, wow, check out those wolves are coming right for us. But the snow's so deep that they're like having trouble walking through, and they would get up really close, and then the moose would just take off a little bit through the snow, and then the wolves would try to jump and chase them, but they couldn't catch them. It was a really cool video. Oh yeah. Well, that's the gray fox. So that's a gray fox. He's smaller. My parents lived up outside of Tahoe, and there was one that would come to the door every night looking for food. And so my mom would sit there. She named him Sly. Sly the fox. And for years, every night she would put a plate of food out, and we would just sit there at the big glass door, and then lo and behold, like between 10 and midnight, come up and would eat it every time. A really interesting story about them is in my house in Oakland, it overlooks my neighbor. The way it's kind of built, like, oh yeah, there he is. Hey, buddy. Baby fox is on your roof. Turned out the fox had gone under her front deck to make the den and to raise the young, and there were fleas everywhere. I mean, like the hugest flea problem you could ever imagine. Millions of fleas, and she couldn't get rid of them. She ended up having to soak a bunch of rags with ammonia, do flashing floodlights under the thing, and was playing music all night to try to get rid of them. And they've left, and I haven't seen them since. But that's the red fox. So anyway, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else down here. Anybody have any questions? Will anybody tell anybody else about this place? Yeah, cool. Thank you. It's free, and so it's really, really good for kids. I know Helena, our lab tech. Also, that's why she got into biology, was her trip to this place. If you come certain times, they bring out little animals and they'll let you hold them and stuff, but we don't have that set up today. But that's what they did with Helena, and that changed her forever. So I hope you enjoyed it. So that is, as a bird watcher, to see this bird that close is pretty neat. They are actually native to this area, but they're very uncommon. So they only come, you see them in the spring. Yeah. So is there anything to see inside there? Okay. Perfect. If the bird flies out and then back into a palm tree, good chance it's an orange. But a beautiful bird. These ones are having a lot of problems. Their population is going especially on the East Coast, I believe it's called the Scotch area, but their numbers are going to They're very specific. Whenever you see snakes, there's a very easy way to tell if they're poisonous or not. The poisonous ones have more of a triangular head. If you look at a rattlesnake, its head is triangular. That's the only poisonous one around here, but if you go to Central America or Africa or anywhere like that, in India, there's all kinds of poisonous snakes. Vipers and cobras and all that stuff, and they all have poisonous heads.
Like how many poisonous snakes about?
It doesn't have a triangular head, but it has a little bit of yellow bands next to the black and white and the red, so that's how you tell it's poisonous. That's a good question. I mean, there is an antidote, but you have to get an antidote.
Who are you with, Eddie? Yeah, can you lift it off the side?
Standing while I was praying.
Yeah, it is so cute. Look at that.
If you've ever moved logs before,
Deadly poisonous. It's up under there, if you look up under there. The red indicates female, but if it doesn't have red, that doesn't mean it's not poisonous. They are very poisonous. They will never come out into the open very often. They always stay in dark places and they prey down there. So the way people get bit is if they crawl into some really dark, narrow place or stick your hand down somewhere you can't see. Like, you ever see the little cement meter things that they have to lift the cement? They're in there all the time. Yeah. Looking at all the different species of things and anything that's low in numbers, they are taking some and trying to breed them in a place in South, I think it's in Brazil or Argentina. And they're trying to raise their numbers there. And yeah, the bad news is it was a girl. No offense. But 3 women don't do anything if you don't have a man. So, but it's shown that it can be done. And so there is hope to bring that rhino back. We'll see. It's a long road.
A lot of interbreeding, and then maybe there's only so many, and then maybe it would be.
Right, the lack of genetic variation, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Might be a field trip for next semester.
yeah, it's a little more expensive, and it's like a nighttime activity for the like nights and bar and stuff, but it's still really cool. It's a good like date night.
Okay, that's good to know. So that's a California king snake. That's a big.
Are they poisonous?
No, this is not poisonous, but actually is the only snake that is immune to rattlesnake poison. So they can eat rattlesnakes. Rattlesnake is the only poisonous snake in California. What is this one? That's a rosy boa. That's not native. It's not a native snake. Oh yeah, well it's in from the U.S., but it's not from here.
Earlier, you scared us all.
Boas get very, very big. They get 6-8 feet big. And so there's 2 kinds of snakes. There's snakes that have venom that paralyze the victim, and then there's constrictors where they just squeeze you to death. That's what these guys are. Oh, that's a gopher snake? That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. He just kept saying it over. I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? So I go all the way up there, and there was a gopher snake like 2 to 3 times that big. And we tried, I was with my brother, we tried to catch it. We were like young teenagers. Well, we did catch it. But it latched onto my thumb and it totally sliced my thumb open. Bleeding all over the place. They'll bite to defend. Yeah, they don't have venom, but they'll bite to defend themselves for sure. But that's a constrictor also. So why do you think they call it a gopher snake? Yep. So I was gardening in my backyard one day, and there's all these gopher holes. The gophers have been a problem. They eat the roots and they kill some of the plants. Oh, darn gophers. But then I was out there and I was working and one of the holes was like right here. And then all of a sudden, all I saw was like a snake body going through it. I was like, whoa, that's totally cool. And it was like this big. And it was scared me actually. I didn't do anything with it. But that's what they do. They're going to go down in all the little tunnels, the gopher and mole tunnels, and they'll go get them. Eat them up. There's a rattlesnake. Yeah, you don't. Is this a diamondback or a timber? The timber has a green tint to it. See how its head is more triangular? They are in the grass a lot.
It says that they're not very aggressive unless they're being harassed.
Yeah, so usually it's, you step on them. Right, they'll sit out there, so if you stumble across them is what happens, and you step on them or you step near them, and then they just bite you. But up in the mountains, I see them a lot, like by the lakes, crossing the dirt roads, big long ones in the springtime. They hibernate. In the wintertime, they go deep in the crevices of all those granite rocks, and then in the springtime, they come back up and they just lay on the rocks because they're cold-blooded, right? And so they have to heat up a certain amount. And so you'll see them just sit there bathing on top of these rocks, these big, giant ones. It's like, whoa, check that thing out. That's about it, you guys.